Welcome back to the Restaurant Technology Guys podcast. Today, it's actually a super special treat for me, and we'll get into it here in just a little bit. But I am joined by a CEO of a brand that I highly respect in the space. And when I lived in Southern California, and I was teasing him before we hit the record button, I used to go there on a semi regular basis. But before we get into the brand that you get to run, Troy, why don't you introduce yourself to our audience that's less familiar with who Troy Hooper is?
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me, Jeremy. I'm a 31-year veteran of this business. I started 31 years and 2 weeks ago as a busboy at a Bennigan's in Miami. I'm from Miami, Florida. My father had some construction companies, and I grew up on the construction site of restaurants, bars, and nightclubs. And so this has basically been my life for the entirety in one way or another. I went to culinary school and I became a chef, and I cooked for almost 6 years in a couple of restaurants, but really had that entrepreneur spirit and have ever since been on the corporate side of both hotels and resorts and private clubs, as well as fine dining restaurants. And about 6 years ago, I decided to take our consulting practice and focus solely on emerging brands in the QSR fast casual space. Mostly, we still do some full service and casual brands, but mostly focusing on the high growth opportunities and the exciting elements of new and innovative concepts and brands, and working with founders and operators. So we've been doing that for the last 6 years. And Pepper Lunch came calling almost exactly a year ago, as a matter of fact. And we've been involved with them ever since. And we're here to help make that brand even bigger than it already is.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to dig into it. And I was teasing a previous guest. Anytime somebody tells me they've been in the restaurant business for more than 20 years, there's got to be some group of therapists or psychologists that can deal with us crazy people that have been doing this for 30 or 40 years. I know you run in a pretty tight circle on the web. I've been keeping up with you on social, and there's a lot of us crazy people that have been doing this for a really long time. So maybe that's a business opportunity for some entrepreneur out there to go get
Right.
some therapists for the restaurants, because we're a sick bunch for sure.
Somebody should start a podcast, a restaurant therapist helping
Yeah,
helping
no, for
crazy
sure,
founders, operators, and executives. Yeah.
for sure. That's I mean, and every time I say it to a restaurateur, they're like, "Yep, you're right. We're all jacked up." So. You threw the brand name out there. For those that are watching on video, you'll see the yellow peas, and if you can read it, it says Pepper Lunch up behind Troy. But I guess talk about Pepper Lunch and its origins, and then we can talk about its entrance into the United States and kind of where it's at. So for those that are less familiar, you talk about it getting bigger than it already is. Pepper Lunch is already a pretty established brand in other places in the world, but people in the United States may not be familiar with it. So if you would, why don't you take us back to kind of at least what you know about the origins of it and kind of where it came from, from the Asian side, and then kind of its entrance to the United States and where it's gone.
Well, it's my job to be part historian, right? So to make sure I understand that. So let's go back to 1994, and a master chef in Tokyo, Japan, a true teppanyaki master chef, who also fancied himself quite the inventor, wanted to create a new concept. And Pepper Lunch was not the only concept, and they still own a number of concepts today, but they sold Pepper Lunch about 3 years ago to our firm, our private equity firm that we're a part of. And but in 1994, beef prices in Japan particularly are always very high because they import about 98% of their beef. They actually export most of their Wagyu, and Wagyu is a very, very small production business in general. And so beef in Japan is very, very expensive on the whole. And especially in 1994, the imports weren't as high as maybe they are today, and prices were certainly unattainable for most people. And so beef was considered a sort of a specialty item that you would have at celebrations at home. You would make dishes, or if you went out to a steakhouse, that would be a very, very big deal. And most people still couldn't even afford to do that. So our founding chef decided that he wanted to make beef more affordable. And one of the staple dishes in Japan is called beef pepper rice. And it is our core and signature item that we were founded on. And it's still actually our most popular sold menu item today still. And so this is a dish that you might take a 18 or 22 inch iron skillet and put a big pile of rice in the middle and put some corn and margarine and pepper, black pepper and salt on it. And then you would put this sliced beef all the way around the outside. And you make this kind of donut on donut of beef and rice and vegetables. And this is an item you would have as a celebratory item in a family meal. And so they would put this on the center of the table and everybody would be able to partake of it. So that dish was the impetus of this brand. And the idea was to take that dish and shrink it down to an individual size. So going from giant pizza to personal size, right? And how do we make it personal size? How do we cook it fast? How do we make this something for the everyday person, both on affordability, but on convenience as well? And so he created the first experiential fast casual brand. And what do I mean by that? This experience, when you come into a pepper lunch, invokes all the senses.
Yes.
You hear the sizzle before you see the plate. The effervescence of the odors are coming, that steam, visibility of that steam and bubbling happening. Boy, the taste is amazing. So it really engages all of your senses from before you ever even see the plate. And so he created this concept, and it required some specialty equipment. And so he took the iron skillet and made it an iron plate, took that handle off of it, and figured a way that if he added a metal core that was not an iron core to this plate, it would superheat very quickly, and it would also hold heat for longer. And so he created this plate, and then he found an induction unit, electric induction unit, and modified it and created his own, which we call a high energy on demand induction unit. You actually stores energy. You push a green button, it delivers that energy to this plate and takes that plate from room temperature, ambient temperature, to 500 degrees Fahrenheit, 254 degrees Celsius in 74 seconds. So this was the creation of Pepper Lunch. How do I make beef more accessible, more affordable? How do I make it more convenient? How do I shrink this iconic dish down to an individual size? And what equipment will it take? And he invented the equipment to make it happen. And that is the foundation and formulation of Pepper Lunch. It's what we are today.
Yeah, no, and I know we'll dig into it, kind of how it's come here and how you got involved in the brand. But the brand is not, I mean, it's not this one-off place that he brought his family to. Like ultimately in Japan and in other parts of the world, like Pepper Lunch is a thing. It's, and so talk to us a little bit about kind of that's where it started, but how has it grown and what has it turned into, I guess, internationally before we jump to kind of where things are at on the domestic side. And I can't wait to talk about the food and all of that because I'll geek out on that piece.
Our founding group was very ambitious and quick to grow. So founded in 1994 in Tokyo, they grew very quickly in Tokyo and throughout Japan. Very small format, QSR, fast casual style. And by the end of 1994, they actually had franchised it to the Suntory Group. And Suntory is the largest Japanese distillery and liquor brand in the world. But they actually, most people don't know this, owned a portfolio of restaurants already at this time. And so Suntory became our first franchisee outside of Japan. And they are responsible for actually proliferating this brand all throughout Asia outside of our domestic business in Japan. And today we have 200 stores in Japan, and we have 508 total around the world in 15 countries, including the United States, Canada, the territory of the United States, and Guam, Australia, and all Asian nations, except for Mongolia, which is in the plans, by the way. We're in every Asian nation except for Mongolia, and we're coming for you, Mongolia. It's growing, by the way. Mongolia is growing. So, we have.
So hopefully you're not having to move to Mongolia for 6 months.
I'm not. No.
Okay, perfect.
No. But I hope they make me move to Singapore one day. So they did a fantastic job over the last 25, 30 years. And the brand was bought by a large private equity firm called J-Star in Tokyo just under 3 years ago. And so ever since, there's been this sort of restructuring organization, new ownership, getting its hands around the business and understanding what the growth opportunities are. And one of the opportunities, obviously, being the United States, which we'll start to talk about in a moment, but also they really needed to scale up the infrastructure more quickly. So what they did was they went back to Suntory and they asked if they could buy the franchise business, buy the Suntory Pepper Lunch business. And we did just that. We actually bought the entire food and beverage portfolio back from Suntory. So now we own all the Suntory related restaurants, but the biggest one being Pepper Lunch. And they had, not only had all of their own stores, corporate stores, but they had obviously the entire franchise network outside of Japan under their tutelage. So we now had this larger, more experienced infrastructure. They've been with us for 28 years, right? So so now we have that fantastic infrastructure that brings all of that institutional knowledge and experience. 3 of our top 5 executives were the 3 general managers of the first 3 stores that opened outside of Japan.
Wow.
And they've been with us ever since, right?
Very cool.
So there's this fantastic connection to the history of the brand, lots of institutional knowledge and experience, and an amazing pride. And so I get to be the beneficiary of all this energy and excitement. But the real reality is the largest opportunity for Pepper Lunch's growth going forward in the near term was to grow in the United States and Canada, to take on North America and really put some significant effort there. And that's where they came to us and me in particularly and said, hey, can your company and your team help us on the infrastructure development, build out the business in the United States? And would you be a part of that by being the CEO of our parent company in North America and help us on a global scale with our other CEOs to sort of cross-pollinate knowledge and experience and resources? And I said, this is a fantastic brand. I'm thoroughly excited. I hadn't outsourced myself for over 7 years and taken on a role outside of my own company. And I said, I just can't pass this up. This is a fantastic opportunity and a really cool brand with great people behind it. And I'm just honored and truly blessed to have this chance to be a part of it. And it's a lot of fun.
Well, and I there's so much, I guess to unpack, Troy, from that perspective. So talk to me a little bit about the domestic footprint before we jump straight into food. Cause again, I could probably geek out forever on the food and the, even the ambiance and the way that you guys go about it. So selfishly, I've gotten the chance to go to the brand a multitude of times, I think before you were even there. But where are you guys at domestically? Where are you guys open today? And then talk to me a little bit about kind of your growth trajectory for where you guys are at, because it's not a name brand today in the United States or Canada. And so you guys are going into communities and where are we at today, and kind of what's the strategy on that from that perspective?
Yeah. So our first U.S. store was actually in Guam, the territory of Guam, next to the military base there. So we have a lot of American military members that are familiar with the brand, not only from Guam, but from Japan and other Asian nations where the U.S. military exists and gets a chance to experience this. But we're a little over 7 years in Guam, with a second store is about to open. We're in the process of them opening their next store there. And then we came to the United States. As a matter of fact, what they did was they asked our Australian franchisee if they'd be interested, given their experience with the brand of over 12 years and 11 stores in Australia, would they be interested in helping the brand grow in North America? And so, so they said yes, and they sent one of their 4 partners here to live, and they did a fantastic job. They arrived in 2015, and by 2017 we're under construction, and in 2018 opened 3 of the 5 continental U.S. stores, and in 2019 opened the other 2. So in 18 months they opened 5 stores across 3 states in the United States, not being U.S. citizens, never having lived here. So kudos to them for doing a phenomenal job. But they opened 3 in Southern California, in LA and Orange County, with Irvine, Artesia, and Alhambra. And then Las Vegas, in Chinatown in Las Vegas, just off the Strip, and then in Houston, in what's known as their Chinatown as well. Which, smart move to put a footprint in a new country is to sort of be near to the population of people that would be familiar with not only the brand potentially, but certainly the food genre as well. So that's where we are today, with obviously the plan to conquer the rest of the United States. And we estimate conservatively, but we think appropriately, we believe the United States could handle at least 600 locations over the next 10 years.
I wholeheartedly agree, and I, being somebody that's been in Southern California for the majority of my life, the cities that you guys first picked are fantastic parts of town that can endear themselves to that type of cuisine, and then people get experience with it. And so Trey, I'm gonna pivot a little bit. I'm gonna geek out and a little fanboy on the food experience. So fast
I'm so
casual,
excited you've been there so many times.
relatively
That's
small footprint, and again, selfishly, like I said, I've been watching online, so I've watched some of your guys' food tours in Southern California and Vegas over the last few months, and so with that, what is the experience like? Because it is different than anything I've ever experienced, and truthfully,
awesome.
part of what I want this audience to hear is it was hard for me the first time I went. It was hard because it was not your typical Dave's Hot Chicken. You get you get tenders or you get sliders. Like you get, you're going into a taco place and it's like you're getting tacos or you're getting, a burrito. You go into a burger place, you're getting, it's not that. And so
Yeah.
talk me through kind of even, you talked about really that rice and beef bowl that kind of the staple of your menu, the pepper, beef that originated everything. But it's so much more than that. And I'd love for you
Yeah.
to geek out for just a little bit on that before we
That's
get,
awesome.
before we dig in too much more, because again, I'm salivating. I just ate lunch and I need to go find myself a pepper lunch somewhere soon.
Well, you're making me hungry because I haven't eaten yet. So yeah, here we go. Yeah, look, it is when you first go today, the menu is getting a little bit of a redesign. We are doing a little retool with the United States menu. This brand is not immune to some of the traps that many brands we find ourselves in as restaurateurs over time, with great ideas and wanting to try things. So there's been a little menu creep. So we're doing a little bit of a retooling just to shrink it back down just a hair, not much. But look, this is a phenomenal brand, and honestly, there is something on the menu for everybody. That is one of the things that I really admire about the concept. Is we have 8 categories, 8 sections of the menu. The pepper rice section is pepper rice can be done with any of our proteins, beef and chicken and shrimp and salmon, etc. So you can have pepper rice many different ways, which is just the base protein plus rice plus veg. Sauce it the way you like, right? So that's the simple sort of salt and pepper version of our food. And then we have the same exact options in the curry vertical, the teriyaki vertical, etc. So we have sort of the plain pepper and salt option, a curry sauce option, a teriyaki sauce option, and we have a cream sauce which we use for our pastas. But look, a lot of people do a cream beef and cream chicken. So basically, the cream sauce is its own sort of vertical. It makes it really easy if you look at it in these categories. We have a seafood section. We have a steak section, which is unique. We only serve maybe 1 steak in most of our stores worldwide. Here, we've been up to 6 steaks. We're kind of bringing that down a little bit to probably three or so steaks. But we sell a lot of steaks. It goes very well, and people in America love steak and vegetables. So steak and rice is going very well there. And then we certainly have a vegetarian option, vegetable only version of that. And then we have a salad option. We have a beautiful large salad, and we have a small, we call it a shake salad to go, kind of like the McDonald's shake salad. It's pretty similar. So there's 8 categories. If you kind of pare it down that way, you can just take any of our proteins and match with any of our sauces and veg combos. And that's what makes it what we call DIY teppanyaki.
Yep.
We're not a build your own bowl or build your own down the line concept like a Blaze Pizza or a Chipotle, but you can really customize from our menu any way you like. Add to that, we have what we call add-ons. Roasted garlic chips. If you haven't, Jeremy, next time, I don't care what dish you get, add roasted garlic chips. We've got
as long as I don't have too many close meetings that afternoon from the roasted garlic.
Exactly. True. But, we've got mushrooms and onions and cheese and kimchi. So we have about 8 things you can enhance your meal with and kind of bolster up the flavor additionally with. So the experience is fast casual. And we say experience so fast casual, as I said before, but really you're going to step in and order from a kiosk or a counter cashier. You're going to be guided through the menu and helped with suggestions. And then once you place your order, you get your beverage, have a seat just like you would at any other fast casual. And in 5 to 7 minutes, we're going to bring you this sizzling hot plate of ingredients. And the proteins are going to be raw with the exception of chicken. You're going to cook it your way. We call it sizzle it your way. You're going to enjoy that sizzle and that bubble and that effervescence, but you're going to really create the dish the way you want. We have 2 table sauces. We have a garlic soy that you mix up the garlic in the soy sauce with a little stir stick, and you can use as little or as lot as you like. And then we've got a Japanese steak sauce. It's an apple plum sweet, sort of like a sweet barbecue in a way. They call it steak sauce. So you can do that as an alternative flavor profile. look, one of the favorite things to do is get a non-curry dish and order the curry on the side or the cream. So this is how you can really build it and make it your own way. And so what we find is most guests come the first time and they're not sure what to have. And so we suggest beef pepper rice. That's our signature dish we were founded on. And we might tell them about these other add-ons and enhancements they can do. And we definitely will instruct them at the table of how to sizzle it their way, table sauces and the process of how to make it the best way possible. But then you find once you've been there once or twice, you get pretty adventurous pretty quickly and you start experimenting and playing with the menu. And I'll give you one, Jeremy. Next time you're in, I told you I want to host you and visit with you when you're here. My favorite dish today is actually the seafood pasta olio. And I actually do all shrimp. I just leave the scallops and salmon off. I do all shrimp with pasta and cream sauce. It comes with mushrooms, and then you can add the other enhancements as well. But man, there's just that black pepper flavor that is really evident in that dish. And I love the pasta. It's kind of light for a pasta. It feels very light for lunch. So really, there's just almost endless options, right?
Well, and that's the part that I'm glad you went through that, because again, when you first go, it is a little bit overwhelming because you're like, there's so much, and what do I do, and how do I engage with it? But I personally, having watched even the brand evolve over the last 5 or 6 years in the US, like I've watched you guys enhance the way that you guys are doing your ordering to where it is simpler. I went early on because the office was right near the Irvine store, but longer term, it's like you guys have evolved to meet those needs. And at the same time, one of the things that consumers are looking for, and I know you guys are hitting right on this, is they're looking for the power to choose. They're looking for the no veto rule. You can go there with your kids, you can go there on a business lunch, you can go there, for dinner with your family, and you can get the quality of food that's hot, fresh, and served to your liking the way you want it. It's like that Burger King, have it your way. You guys are hitting that. Talk to me a little bit about the I guess the fallacy that says people want this, but no different than Korean barbecue or anywhere else that you might be cooking your own food on this hot plate. That probably creates some opportunities. You talked about chicken needing to be prepared in the kitchen because you can't serve raw chicken, or you're going to probably get yourself in trouble. Somebody's going to get
Right.
sick. How have you guys protected yourselves against them creating? I mean, I know years ago I was working with California Pizza Kitchen, iconic brand out of Southern California, and they were like, we won't allow somebody to put barbecue sauce and spaghetti sauce on the same pizza. We just won't, because it's gonna hurt our brand. And I was like, oh, that's very interesting. You can do anything you want except for this. Have you guys gotten any of those kind of, I guess, Troy, from that perspective? Have you guys dealt with any of that where you found that people are having a bad brand experience because of the way that they choose to customize?
Yeah, no, and the cool question. The answer is no, and there's two parts to this. One is we are wholly authentic. We are Tokyo founded, master chef created. And the translation of that has never been lost, partly because of so many of our team members being with us since day one, right? And many of them being here even more than 15 years, just generally. There's a lot of pride. Plus, being a Japanese brand, the Asian cultures in general are very prideful people. And so there isn't this impetus, there isn't this draw to evolve something or change something for the sake of change. Now, to say that, we absolutely have adapted it to every country we are in. There are menu items that are very specific to the flavors, tastes, and traditions of that country, but we don't abandon or lose the authenticity of our founding flavors, sauces, etc. And we are extraordinarily overprotective. We have an entire team who all they do is check specs, inspect our co-packers that create our sauces for us, inspect the beef packing houses and slicing houses to make sure that our spec is always the same. They're not cheapening the product. They're not shaving grams off of the individual pieces, like that. We are getting what we pay for because we are very proud of the quality of ingredients. Look, you can get in and out of Pepper Lunch for $20 in 20 minutes, but I'm telling you that the quality of the food is better than most casual restaurants you could get in and out of in an hour, right? For twice the price. And so a quality of food is very good. It's very healthful and clean, that we don't there's no breading, there's no frying of that. We have fries and sweet potato fries and onion rings here in America, but besides that, and by the way, those are very good, but we take very good care of the brand. And so that translates to everything we do. And the reality is we don't have anything on the menu ingredient wise that we wouldn't be proud or think would be unauthentic if you used it or brought it across into a dish. The idea is that the concept is so simple that it's really protein, rice, and veg, right? And any combination of protein, rice, and veg is pepper lunch. And so we're not seeing a situation where we have this whole other sort of side menu and then people want ingredients from there. Look, I do that. I go to Lazy Dog all the time, and I'm like, look, on a Sunday morning, I don't want the Cajun gravy. I want the regular gravy. Yep. Thankfully, they have two gravies, for my chicken and waffles. So I'm a fried chicken and waffle guy on a Sunday morning with a Bloody Mary. We're not in that situation where we kind of have different genres of food, which casual dining has that, right? And fine dining too. And that's where in those environments you say, look, that's not really meant to do that. We don't have that. So we're very fortunate in that regard.
I love it. I love it. One other question about the experience, and I equated it the very first time I went, for those that are trying to visualize, is like the first time I went to a Mexican restaurant and they had the sizzling hot fajita plate that came out, and you've got this. So I guess how do you, I don't want to say protect, but how do you make sure that people don't hurt themselves? Because that has also happened. And it's a silly thing to say, but it's like, I've got 4 small kids. I mean, they're not small anymore, but they were small at one point. And you always had to be careful to make sure that you were smart enough to make sure that it didn't hurt somebody. The first time I went there, they were very conscious of that. And I guess for those that are getting this visual, talk to me about, I guess, even operationally, how have you guys dealt with that?
Yeah. So we have the most valuable thing in our building is a piece of paper. We have this 2-inch high or 2-inch wide band or ring of paper. You could wear it on your head if your head was big enough, but we place this ring of a little bit less thick than cardstock, thicker than regular print paper ring around the edge of the plate. The hot plate sits on a wooden pallet or board. I call it a charger. It's kind of like a wedding charger at a fine dining or fine experience, but you set it on this wooden board. We do that with a tool that we're not touching it, right? It's 500 degrees. And then we put this ring of paper on it right before we put it in the window to go out. And so that ring of paper does 2 things. It first says, don't touch, it's hot, right on it in red letters. Most people don't read though. I probably guilty of not really knowing what it says on it. And then, but it's just thick enough and quite realistically, it's 500 degrees when we put it in the window, but iron, it loses temperature pretty quick. So the outer edge of that kind of comes off of that temperature pretty quick. But by the time it hits your table, that piece of paper gives you just enough physical barrier that if you were to grab your utensils or napkin or drink and brush your wrist or your palm against it, it would register your brain as warm, hot, maybe even, but it wouldn't sear you. The idea is just to prevent you from getting seared. And the reality is that temperature comes down from that searing level of temperature pretty quick. And so really it's just buying you those few seconds to a minute to keep you from touching it inadvertently. And, knocking on wood, we've literally never had in 30 years next year, never had an incident, never had a claim, never had a complaint that that was a problem for us. It's a little obvious though, right? It's not like,
oh, this is sizzling. It's
at a Mexican restaurant, they put a ceramic plate in front of you and say, that's hot. And he was holding it with his bare hands, maybe a light rag, but they've been doing that for years, right? His hands are numb and you touch that and it's like, oh, that's really hot. We don't have that same scenario, but similarly, it's like, hey, you learn pretty quick that's probably not something I want to touch.
Yeah. Well, and selfishly, half the time I do these podcasts because I get to learn how you guys deal with that. And I love the little paper ring because I was like, why is this paper ring there? Oh, because I'm going to burn the crap out of myself if I touch this with my hand.
And by the way, it acts as a little splash guard too, because if you're pouring cream sauce or curry sauce and it's a pretty good volume of sauce in there, you get a good layer of bubbling, like lava
crispy.
hot.
I love the crispy edges. That's like my favorite part.
Fantastic. But it's a little bit of a splash guard. But what you'll find, and Jeremy, you may have seen this, you may even do this. I forget to do it when I'm there. But people who have been to Pepper Lunch regularly, they'll do all their stirring and mixing and saucing. And then when things settle down, they're about to eat, they'll take the ring off and fold it and set it down on the table. And so that's how I know that this is a Pepper Lunch veteran. When I look across the room and I see people taking the ring off and folding it, I'm like, oh, they've been
That
here
person's
before.
been here a few
They know
times.
to get that ring out of the way. I just want to eat my food.
I love it. I love it. I have done so yes, I've taken it off before. So there's that. Well, Troy, talk to us a little bit about where you guys are at. I mean, you talked about where you guys are at today. I know we're recording this kind of in the late or early fall, probably come out later this year. Where are you guys growing? You're right now in Vegas, Houston, Southern California, but I know you guys have got some pretty big plans. I am thinking 600 is probably an understatement because quite frankly, there's lots of, I mean, you get small little footprint, fantastic food, lots and lots and lots of runway for you guys. Where are you guys going next? What is it? What does the future look like for those that have yet to experience it, and when can they expect it to kind of come around?
Yeah, coming to your neighborhood really soon. We're being very aggressive. Look, we're partnering with experienced multi-unit franchise operators and restaurateurs only, right? And so our primary focus for the foreseeable future is to work with folks that have done this before. They probably are in more than one brand. They definitely have 3, 5, 15 or more of something in their market. That makes them market experts in their communities, right? If you have
Mm-hmm.
10 to 20 or 30 restaurants across a couple of brands in a city, then you probably know the area very deeply and have great community roots. That's important to us. And so these are the folks that we're working with and talking to early. We've been very, very fortunate to have a lot of fantastic inquiries and be building a lot of very strong relationships with these types of groups throughout the last number of months. And so as of the time this podcast will air, it's official that we have sold the state of Arizona. We will have at least 10 stores in the state of Arizona. Those partners are really excited. We're very excited to have them as well. They're very experienced in the business, and they're going to be very aggressive. They're looking at coming out of the gate with 2 or 3 stores under construction simultaneously.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
so we have a couple of partners with the same mindset. So, that is the one that is announceable today, but I'll tell you that I expect by the end of the year that we will have between 5 and 7 states either fully territory built out as far as commitments, or big chunks of some of the bigger states committed. We expect and are on the trajectory to exceed 55 units committed this year. And by the way, for those friends in the industry, committed for us means that they have actually fully paid all the franchise fees for all of the stores they are committing to up front. This is not a
Wow.
deposit or a promissory note on future growth. These are hard commitments, and these folks are going to build these stores. And by the way, we've actually added an aggressive element to it. If you buy a minimum of 5 stores from us, which is where we start, you need to build those in 3 years. It's a 1 year to do 1 store and then 2 stores a year after that. And so that schedule continues, whether it's 10, 15, or 20 units. So we are looking for fast growth with experienced operators, because look, being around 30 years, having the team that we have, having the experience to be in 15 countries, we grow at 5 stores a month now. We are currently opening 5 stores a month. As I'm talking to you, we have 508 stores. In 3 days, we will be official and ring the bell for 513 stores. So this trajectory continues for us in the foreseeable future. And so we believe that because of our simple operations, our simple equipment and kitchen design package, and our experience building lots of restaurants very quickly in our history, with the team that we have, we are fully geared up and ready to go. Our supply chain is established nationally already. We have
Oh
all of
wow.
our MSAs and contracts in place. We have equipment being staged throughout the country. We manufacture and provide our cooking equipment. The induction unit is actually manufactured for us, and we actually warehouse that and supply it ourselves. So we are pre-staged and ready to go for massive growth. So that's our model for the foreseeable future. We're excited about it. We're seeing fantastic uptake and interest in it. The phones are ringing. We're very happy for that. And I'm just excited to see Pepper Lunch start to be in places like Phoenix, and very likely in Honolulu, Hawaii, and more of them in California. Certainly coming to Texas, I'm sure.
Yeah, we need some in Dallas, man. I need
Yeah,
my pepper lunch. I have to go back to Southern California, and I always set it up when I'm there. So how would they learn more?
Houston's not just right like down the street for you. I understand, but
Yeah.
certainly Texas is going to be a big part of our growth strategy. We're excited about Central Florida. Tampa to Jacksonville along the I-4 corridor is in play now. So we're going to see the next time you and I chat here by the end of the year. We're going to have a lot of great announcements. Please watch the social media channels of your choice. LinkedIn, Pepper Lunch Restaurants on LinkedIn is a great place to keep an eye on what's happening.
Yeah, if you haven't already checked out Troy's page and Pepper Lunch's page, they've got the whole experience. They've got some good videos out there. And so website, I guess, Troy, tell our listeners where they can go find out more if they're in that place of looking to add a brand to their portfolio. They've got a territory that they know well, and go see if it's something of interest to you guys and to them.
Sure. Everybody's invited to pepperlunchrestaurants.com, pepperlunchrestaurants, plural.com. It's the same on social media and on LinkedIn. And then, of course, I am Troy Hooper. I'm Troy Hooper on LinkedIn, but I'm pretty easy to find on the social media channels as well.
And like I said, he's very active, and it's fun to watch him cruising around with some of other previous guests on the show. You'll if you check out Troy, you'll see some previous guests that have been hanging out with us. Troy, thank you so much for educating the audience about what Pepper Lunch is. I'm excited for your guys' growth. To our listeners, guys, we know that you guys have got lots of choices on how you guys spend your time, so we appreciate you guys spending time with us each week when we post one of these. If you guys have got guests that you guys want to have on the show, send them my way. I'd love to talk with interesting restaurateurs, interesting technology providers. Troy, thank you so much. And to our listeners, make it a great day.
Thanks, Jeremy.